Basically, we were discussing the two questions that we picked up for this session. Is one is in governance, polity governance, that is about quasi judicial bodies. The other is about the causes of the 1969 agitation, that is formation of Telangana. So let me start with the first question, which is what are quasi judicial bodies? Explain their role with examples. Quasi judicial bodies are very, very important. Play a very important role in administration of justice. So we are going to start with what is quasi judicial bodies and explain their role with examples first. Now, there are different authorities that are constituted by the government for various to deal with various aspects of governance. On the basis of how the authority is formed, we categorize authorities into constitutional or statutory or extra legal. Any authority which is constituted through the constitution, meaning which is established on the basis of the provisions of the constitution, becomes a constitutional body, like the Election Commission of India. Any authority which has been constituted through a statute, an ordinary law, is called as a statutory body, like the National Human Rights Commission, the National Commission for Women, Lokpal, CVC, and so on. Any authority that is constituted by an executive order, an order issued by the executive, it could be a minister, it could be anybody. Any authority that is constituted by an executive is called as a extra legal body. So this is on the basis of how they are constituted. The second set of classification depends on what powers and functions the authority has, meaning what is the role of the authority. Now, on the basis of powers and functions of the authority, an authority can be constituted into advisory body, or we call it as regulatory body, quasi judicial body. So it could be advisory, regulatory, quasi judicial. Advisory body is anything that is constituted to advise to give advice to the government. Regulatory body is anything that is any body that is constituted to control a particular sector. Like SEBI is a regulatory body for the share market. RBI is the regulatory body for in the banking sector. Like this, we have regulatory bodies. The third aspect of this is we talk about quasi judicial bodies, which we are going to discuss now. So, when the question says what are quasi judicial bodies, you should start with the introduction that on the basis of their powers and functions, that is the mandate of the authority, authorities are classified into quasi judicial, regulatory, advisory. Now we come to the definition of quasi judicial body. A quasi judicial body is a body having partial judicial character. We say it has partial judicial character. What do you mean by partial judicial character? To understand that, first you have to understand the role of judiciary. The primary role of judiciary is adjudication, meaning resolving disputes is the primary role of judiciary. We have to resolve disputes. Judiciary is supposed to resolve disputes. So the first role of judiciary is to resolve disputes. If anybody violates law, punish them for violating law. At times, it also gives advice to the president, like the Supreme Court gives advice. It has the right to interpret the constitution. So, all these are works of the judiciary. But when we talk about a quasi judicial body, a quasi judicial body will not perform all these functions. A quasi judicial body will have a limited role. Its jurisdiction is limited, its role is limited. So, we say quasi judicial body is a body having partial judicial character, meaning that it has limited jurisdiction. The first point you have to write is it has limited jurisdiction. It will take up issues related to a particular it will only take up particular issues. For example, when I talk about a body like National Green Tribunal, it will only hear environment related cases. When I talk about a body like National Human Rights Commission, it will only look into a violation of human rights. So like this, they will have limited jurisdiction. The second is they will have the power to hold hearings, that is to hold trials, to conduct investigations into disputes and give give a decision, but they will not have the right to imprison any person. I repeat, they will have the power to hold hearings, to conduct investigation into disputes, and give decisions, but they will not have the right to imprison a person, to punish a person. For example, uh, I have been subjected to atrocities, so I will have the right to approach the National Commission for SCs, and the National Commission for SCs can investigate and see whether atrocities have been committed or not, but it will report to the government. It will not have the power to punish the offender. Okay, so quasi judicial bodies are bodies with partial judicial character because they have limited jurisdiction, because they have one limited jurisdiction is one, as I said, and the second is because they have limited powers. They play a limited role. They have only a few functions of the judiciary. Now, the next part of your question is explain their role with examples. Why quasi judicial bodies? What role do they play in our governance? Is what we have to explain. The first role of quasi judicial bodies is they ensure time bound conflict resolution with minimal cost. Always remember, when a conflict can be resolved in a limited time, the cost associated with getting justice will also be low. Low cost will always be associated with limit on time. That is the reason why quasi judicial bodies are important, because they ensure time bound access to justice, time bound access to justice, which is not very costly, so it is less expensive. Now, how do I say this? Most of these quasi judicial bodies have a time bound a time for investigation. They cannot go beyond that time. When they are investigating, they have to give their decision within that stipulated time. For example, I'm sure you must have heard of the Lokpal. The Lokpal is supposed to conduct its investigation in 6 months. So, like this, for majority of the bodies, the time will be set between 6 months to 1 year. So, first is time bound conflict resolution, which is less expensive. The second reason why you need quasi judicial bodies is the reason why they are important, and the role they play is they ensure fair justice by they provide fair justice by ensuring that experts are involved in decision making. For example, two states are fighting for water. Okay, you go to the Supreme Court. In the Supreme Court, you will have legal experts who can talk about what justice has to be done on the basis of law. But in Supreme Court, you will not have a hydrology expert, an expert who can tell you how what will be the requirement of water of each state, because there are several conditions that have to be taken into consideration to tell what are the what is required what is the requirement of water for a particular state. You need experts, you need hydrology experts to help resolve a dispute related to water sharing. That is the reason, instead of giving this power to the Supreme Court, the Constitution has given this power to the Constitution has enabled the Parliament to give this power to interstate river disputes tribunals. So we have interstate river water dispute tribunals that exclusively look into interstate river water disputes. They have experts on board. These experts will be able to handle the issue properly. The same holds good for National Green Tribunal. So the first point I told you is less expensive, time bound. The second point I told you is expertise. The third important reason why you need quasi judicial bodies is most of these quasi judicial bodies are not bound by procedure established by law. In India, the judiciary is bound by procedure established by law, meaning the judiciary has to adhere to rigid rules and regulations. There are court rules that cannot be compromised. Often, these rules result in delay in justice. But when you don't have such rigid rules, when you are flexible in your working, automatically you will be able to you will be able to deliver speedy justice. So they are not bound by procedure established by law, which means they are flexible in their working, and this can contribute to speedy justice. The fourth reason why you need quasi judicial bodies, the role that they play is that they unburden the courts. In India, we have so many cases being filed every day, and the courts are overburdened by these cases. By constituting separate quasi judicial bodies to deal with each matter, you are removing that pressure from the courts. There is a body, that there is an authority that is going to take care of a particular set of disputes, which means the courts are unburdened. For example, you have a lot of service related disputes. When you get into the system, you'll have issues with regard to promotions, with regard to postings, with regard to transfers. Now, you cannot take all these issues to courts. I mean, for you also, it will waste a lot of time. Instead of going to the court, you will go to your administrative tribunal. Administrative tribunals are separately constituted to deal with issues related to public services. So, this is how we look at quasi judicial bodies, the role. Apart from these 4 points, I told you about speedy justice and less expensive. Then I told you about expertise, I told you about flexibility in working, I told you about unburdening the judiciary. Apart from these four, another reason why we need quasi judicial powers for an authority is to enable them to perform their functions to the expected standards. For example, Finance Commission is a quasi judicial body, CAG is a quasi judicial body, Election Commission is a quasi judicial body. These bodies are independent in nature. They play a crucial role in the governance of the country. To ensure that they are able to fulfill their mandate, they have to be given quasi judicial powers. CAG has the power to visit any office that is subjected to his audit. CAG has the power to call for any record, and visiting an office subject to his audit or calling for a record is an important aspect of auditing the accounts of government. So, by giving them quasi judicial powers, you are empowering these authorities to fulfill their mandate. This is the role of quasi judicial bodies. So, this is about what are quasi judicial bodies, explain their role with examples. That is the reason for every point that I have given you a couple of examples so that you are able to write. For expertise, you can take expert, you can take the example of NGT and Interstate River Water Dispute Tribunal, because the River Water Dispute Tribunal will have representatives from the Central Water Commission. NGT has environmental experts in it. So this is how it caters. It is able to ensure fair justice by getting into the technical details, not just the legal details, but the technical details associated with the issue. This is the first question for today. Any doubts that you have, please let me know. And those who will be watching this video later on YouTube, you can always post your comments. You can also ask any specific topic that you want me to help you all with. I would be glad to do live on those topics as well. Very soon, my colleagues also will be joining for these live sessions. This is basically being done to help students get into the habit of answer writing. Now, the second question that I picked up for today is discuss the causes of the 1969 agitation. When we say discuss, you have to write everything related to the everything related to the causes. Okay, whether the cause is fair or not is also to be mentioned. The 1969 agitation, it was a very long agitation that we had. In fact, it went on for nearly 3 years. Unfortunately, the agitation could not succeed in forming Telangana state, but it is very, very crucial to understand the reason why we study the 1969 agitation in detail is because the 1969 agitation gave several lessons. It taught a lot of things to people who wanted Telangana state, and these mistakes were not repeated in the last phase of the agitation. Now, understanding 1969 agitation will tell you actually why a political party was formed in 2001 to lead the Telangana movement. Why we took almost 20 years to prepare people in Telangana for the agitation, why we wanted all sections of Telangana society to join the agitation. All these questions you will find answers in the 1969 agitation. Now, our question is discuss the causes of the 1969 agitation. 1969 agitation, though it started in 1969 in January, it was not because of some immediate issue, but it was because of all the injustices done to Telangana region right from the formation of Vishal Andhra till 1969. So basically, you have to understand what all, in what ways Telangana suffered after Vishal Andhra formed in the formative years, that is from 1956 to 1969. What were the various issues that came up which affected Telangana and its interests? So the 1969 agitation causes, whenever we are discussing, we will first briefly write, since we have to discuss it, we will first briefly write in the introduction about the reasons. See, Telangana people were not ready for Vishalandhra. Majority of them could not actually make up their mind on formation of Vishalandhra because we had many fears related to employment, related to irrigation, related to political participation, related to education. When Vishal Andhra is formed. But despite the objections by Telangana people, Vishal Andhra was formed on the basis of an assurance given in the form of assurance that our interests will be protected in the form of gentleman's agreement. So this should be your introduction, because the first thing that we are going to do now is the first thing we are going to do now is we are going to discuss about violation of gentleman's agreement. In the 1969 agitation, what is very important is the violation of gentleman's agreement. How was gentleman's agreement violated is very, very important. So we are going to first start, the introduction should start. The voice is coming here. If the voice was not coming, people would have by now objected to it. So the first introductory para for this answer should be basically that despite the Telangana people had several objections towards formation of Telangana, several people had objections towards formation of Telangana, basically because we were skeptical about, we were frightened that our revenues will be misused, there will be issues related to employment, education, water sharing, focus on Telangana development, political participation. Despite this, Vishalandhra was formed with an assurance that the interests of Telangana will be protected through the gentleman's agreement. So we begin the causes with the violation of the gentleman's agreement. How was gentleman's agreement violated? The first violation that we are going to point out is immediate. The immediate violation was in the gentleman's agreement, there was a clause, there was a point which said that there will be a chief minister and deputy chief minister. If the chief minister is from Andhra, then deputy chief minister will be from Telangana. So one will be from Andhra, one will be from Telangana. This was never immediately implemented. It was implemented much later. Okay, so the first violation, immediate violation is this. Then we talk about the diversion of surplus revenues. No proper accounts were maintained. In gentleman's agreement, it was very clearly agreed that the expenditure share will be 2:1. Two will be Andhra, will be spent from the revenue generated from Andhra, and one will be spent from the revenue generated from Telangana. Why 2:1? Because Telangana gave them a ready-made capital. Hyderabad city was given as a capital. So that was our investment, and that was the reason Andhra had to share more in terms of expenditure. But unfortunately, proper accounts were not maintained, and whatever surplus was left out from Telangana revenues had to be used only for Telangana. That was also not done in the gentleman's. That was also not done. That was also violated. There were clear diversion of surplus revenues, which was pointed out time and again in the assembly, which was also pointed out by the Telangana TRC, by the Telangana Development Committee. So on the basis of this, this would be the second point, the surplus diversion. The third point that you have to talk about is Telangana Regional Committee. Basically, a Telangana Regional Committee council was supposed to be constituted to take care of the development of Telangana region. This council was to be very powerful, with representation from both elected, with both political and non-political representation. And the CM or the deputy CM were supposed to be a part of it. But eventually, that was what was given in the gentleman's agreement. But eventually, the CM, deputy CM were disassociated with the Telangana Regional Committee It became a smaller representative body. There was no external representation. It had representation only from the elected representatives of Telangana. So they have reduced the mandate of Telangana Regional Committee, both in terms of its composition and also in terms of its of the subjects under its control. Now, why was it so important that the CM is associated with the Telangana Regional Committee? If you have the CM associated with it, whatever decisions are taken by the regional committee, there will be an assurance that it will be implemented because CM is a part of the decision making. That is the reason it will be properly implemented. But unfortunately, that was not there. The CM was not made part of it. The fourth was violation with respect to education. In the gentleman's agreement, they said that 1/3 will be reserved for people of Telangana across AP. That was never implemented. Okay. The fifth point that we talk about was political representation in terms of ministries. Out of 5 portfolios, two were supposed to be given to Telangana. That was never followed properly. So the gentleman's violation of gentleman's agreement, along with violation of gentleman's agreement, along with data has to be mentioned in your exam. Now, apart from this, there were some incidents that had a profound impact on the 1969 agitation, like Supreme Court judgments, The immediate trigger was a Supreme Court judgment on mulki non-mulki rules. So, the Supreme Court judgment was a trigger. Then we had issues of retrenchment. People were removed more from Andhra region and they were again taken into Telangana region. Retrenchment had to be done on equal basis. That was another issue. There was another issue of teachers transfer. So all these issues together led to the starting of the 1969 agitation. So when you're writing about this, after the introduction, please write about the gentleman's agreement violation and then the immediate causes like a retrenchment issue of forest officers, then the judgment given by the court declaring mulki rules as invalid that triggered the protest in Khammam. It started with in Khammam that triggered the hunger strike by Ravindranath in Khammam. So you have to write about the immediate causes, and in conclusion, you should say that the 1969 Jai Telangana movement was a very lengthy movement. Which involved a lot of people and lot of sacrifices, but unfortunately could not achieve its main objective of formation of Telangana state due to various factors. The most important being the central government led by Mrs. Gandhi was against the formation of Telangana. So this should be the conclusion. So these are the 2 questions that I wanted to discuss for today. Again, next Saturday, I'm going to come back. Another 2 questions will be posted by Thursday, but this time I'm going to take 2 different questions, probably from society, because I've not touched that till now. So I'll see you the next Saturday. Hope the live was useful. Please do join me for the next Saturday's session, and do follow so that you are aware of the sessions being conducted, the Insta Live programs being conducted. Thank you so much. I'll see you again the next Saturday.